Today we are doing difference of squares. Difference of squares is just what it says. All of these are difference of squares. How do I know that it's a difference of squares? Because all of these have minus. Minus, minus, not this one. Minus, 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 minus. All of them are subtracting. If it's not subtracting, it doesn't work that way. Okay? So we're only going to be doing it to the ones that have a minus. Todos los que tienen menos es lo que vamos a hacer esto y tiene que tener squares. Okay? And by squares I mean perfect squares. So let's write down the perfect squares. They're on your multiplication chart. They're the diagonals, and I'll show you in just a little bit. But perfect squares are like, write this down. One is a perfect square. 4 is a perfect square because it's 2 times 2. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. 9 times 9 is 81. 10 times 10 is 100. 11 times 11 is 121. 12 times 12 is 144. And there's more. They're all on that diagonal I'm about to show you. So they're all right here. These are all perfect squares. They're on your multiplication chart, the green chart that you use every day that's on your desk. Okay, so if you see any of these numbers on the problems today, those are perfect squares, and that means we can do difference of two squares so long as there's a minus. Okay? So it says 2 factor with difference of squares. Both terms must be squares. They have to be squares, and they must be subtraction sign. Okay? So here's what the final answer is gonna look like. So I'm gonna practice some with you, and then you're gonna do some by yourself. So I know that this is a difference of 2 squares because first of all, this one's squared, and this is also a perfect square, right? 4 is a perfect square. So if they are perfect squares, my answer, one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. Take the square root of a squared, that's a times a. Take the square root of 4, that's 2 times 2. And you're done. Okay, take the square root of 4. So you're going to look in your table, you're going to find 4, and you're going to say, oh, it's 2 times 2. Okay, so that's how we're going to be doing it. Let's do another one. This is a difference of 2 squares. This is on my list, and this is also a square. So I'm going to put 1 plus 1 minus, because that's what my rule says. You see right here, 1's plus, 1's minus, and the order doesn't matter. I don't care which one's which, because you have the same numbers. What's the square root of 81? So here's 81. It's 9 times 9. So I'm going to put 9 in the front. And then x squared is just x times x. And I'm done. Okay, let's do a few more. I'm going to skip this one for now because that's not a difference of 2 squares. That's a square, but that's not a difference, that's minus. So I'm not going to do that with that one. But this one, it does work because that's a minus, right, of 2 squares. 1 is a square. Let me go to my notes. 1 is on my list, right? And 49 is also on my list. And then this one's square. So, pretty easy. 1's plus, 1's minus. The square root of 1. And the square root of 49. So the square root of 1 is 1, and the square root of 49 is 7. So those are going to be my answers. The square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 49 is 7. And the square root of y squared is y. Done. We're just taking square roots. Difference of two squares. I'm going to start off like this. And again, it can be minus or plus. It doesn't matter. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of b squared is b. The square root of 16 is 4. And if you don't believe me, look at your notes. The square root of 16 is 4. Okay? Again, this is a rule. This is not going to work with everything. It does not work with this one. This is a plus. It does work with this one. This is a minus. I can take the square root of 36. That gives me 6. I can take the square root of 49. That gives me 7. I can take the square root of t squared. That's t. So I'm going to set it up. One's plus, one's minus. Square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 49 is 7. And the square root of t squared is t. Done. I'm going to do one more, and then I want you to practice. Or actually, pause the video right now, do the last 3 problems, and then check them with me when you're done. So all of these are a difference of two squares, so they're all actually, okay, we'll see. This is a difference, this is a difference, this is a difference. So I think right now that they're all going to work, right? The square root of 121 and the square root of 144. Did you check it? Square root of 121 is 11 times 11. And the square root of 144 is 12 times 12. So it's going to work for those two. So one's plus, one's minus. Square root of 121 is 11. Here's an x, so here's an x. 11x. And the square root of 144 is 12 and 12. Perfect. Right here. Difference, check. Square and a square, let me go look. 4 is a perfect square, that's 2 times 2. And 25 is a perfect square, that's 5 times 5. So yes, it does work. So I'm going to set it up. Plus and a minus. 4 is 2 times 2. H squared is h times h. 25 we said is 5 and 5. And g squared is g times g. So it works for both. Did you guys have trouble with this one? Because it is subtracting. This is a square. This is not a perfect square. 35 does not work. Okay? So we would have to do that a different way. This is not difference of two squares. So put not. It does not work. Okay? And then this one is also not a difference of squares, but it can work out. I can do, well, maybe. Nope, it cannot work. So this one's a prime. And this one's also prime. Okay, so today's work, if it doesn't work as the difference of two squares, we're just going to put prime. Okay, but that's only for today. There's other times, like the last week when we were factoring, when it does work different ways. But this, just for today, we're doing the difference of squares. So you're checking to see if they're squares. They have to be in right here in the diagonal. If they're not on the diagonal, then it's not going to work. They also have to be minus. All of them have to be subtracting. If they're not subtracting, it's not going to work. Okay?